All right, we're recording. Welcome to episode, I think this is 3. Yes, 3 of Wise Talk. So it went from Wise Guys to Wise Talk because I want to make sure it's well encompassing of our entire think tank here. So welcome everybody back to another live stream. Excited to be back. Another week of a lot of activity, a lot of things to talk about. We're going to talk about QE, reserves, crypto, you name it, and plus whatever else comes up. So welcome. My name is Mike, and then we have
Alan. I'm here. Alan Myers, West Coast.
And how's it going? Is Bitcoin Ben your favorite ex-truck driver?
Trader Steph, living free or die in New Hampshire, babe.
Terry Lutz here, Financial Survival Network in beautiful, warm South Florida.
Warm South Florida, man. Okay, so let's kick it off. And so before we actually hit record, we're going in the direction. I figure it's time we'll hold a little bit of that and save it for now. So crypto space, technical analysis, and thoughts and criticism. Let us know who wants to kick this off.
All right, just so everyone knows, I am not a trader. I am a hodler. I am a crypto hodler. I've never traded. I've never swung trade. I've never day traded. I actually buy and hold. So trader, Steph, come at me, girl. Let's do this.
You don't have to be a trader to learn technical analysis. Let's make that clear. So don't be afraid of it because it could actually help you. Now, as far as buy and hold, I get that. But in trading or investing, let's add the word investing, just like I think we discussed in the last group, everyone has different goals. There's some people who are day traders, which is much more difficult nowadays because of the automated trading platforms. You have the intermediaries that may do a little bit of both. They may do intraday scalps. They may do swings, which means holding it overnight or for a longer period of time. And then you can also throw in, there are people who build core positions on trends. So the trend's always your friend, right? So to learn that, to at least the basics of technical analysis can be very helpful because if you're a hodler, as you say in the crypto, well, that's the same thing as building a core position. And it is extremely rare for someone one thing you don't want to do is throw all your eggs in one basket at one price point. It's kind of like where people were laddering. You ladder CDs. You do a few thousand this week, and then a few thousand a few weeks down the road, and you got a whole bunch of CDs that are lined up over 2 or 3 months, and then they're constantly rolling over, and you have a choice. You're not stuck with making just one decision. So it's the same concept. You can layer on your positions, and when you need to take some profit, you can take 1/3, 2/3 off. But you keep a third in the game so that if you're getting, you make a mistake, you're still in the game. You can always add that position back. That's kind of like where I was coming from with technical analysis and how that applies, especially, for crypto people who aren't familiar. And, get familiar with it and the terminology. And I just see a lot of really bad analysis out there.
All right, so Ben, I'll let you comment on that. So, Steph, I want to just touch on what you said earlier, investing. And so for my little platform here, I talk about investing and how that word has taken a change, definitely after the great financial crisis, because most people are passive investors where they just basically turn their funds over to somebody and it does all the algorithm things like you mentioned last week. So is it really investing when you're turning it over to somebody and you've taken your hands off and say, hey, you return to me what you said you're going to promise to me in this current environment and moving forward, given monetary policy and all the negative ZERP and all that stuff going on? Is investing still the same in your personal opinion?
Is that a question to me?
To anybody. I'm sorry. I was trying to. That was like an interview question. I'm sorry to anybody. But in regards to you just mentioned investing, what do you guys think about that? I just add that in there. To Ben, I'm sorry to cut you off.
I'll just say it's not your grandfather's market. That's all I got to say.
Oh,
what do you think?
I absolutely agree with that. Like I said, F is a professional trader. I've earned what I have mostly because cryptocurrencies is a growing market uh, with projects launching that are accumulating value, and I'm advising people on good projects. So I actually don't like make any money on like swing trading or anything like that. I actually make mine uh, on advising people on projects, and also uh, helping small to mid-size corporations uh, introduce blockchain and decentralized ledger technology into their existing corporate structure.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm actually no longer a truck driver. Last week was my last quote unquote truck driving day.
So is this a retirement party?
Yeah, it is. It's, and I know we're looking for answers. What should we do? You know, how can we survive the collapse or the transition? And the only way I see that we're going to survive the transition or the collapse is get the pluck off of the old boat. You know, it's everyone's looking at the old system and how it has all these flaws and all these problems and all these, you know, real really bad things that are going on, and everyone's looking around like, well, who's going to fix it? Who's who who is going to right all of the wrongs? And I'm saying that's 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 not even an option anymore. There's too many wrongs, and the technology has moved way past what what any one group or even one government can even handle. So if you're looking to actually gain wealth, you want to get in front of all of everyone else who eventually is going to come over to cryptocurrency, blockchain, and distributed ledger technology.
Interesting. Mr. Allen, you got something? Like you want to say something?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Thank you for all of that. I'm going to step this back one step. And we have major problems in our monetary system. Absolutely. And so I'm going to come from my position as a student of the monetary system. What's missing in this conversation, and I don't mean our conversation, I mean the conversation that's going out there in the world. The current system is not really properly understood. I read and I watch videos and I study articles, and I see that people are saying things that I completely disagree with. They're using terms improperly, or they're not even using the terms that need to be used. For example, there are the three big things that are going on in our current monetary system, and I mean in the US. This is very reflective in the rest of the world, but just stay with the US, the Federal Reserve System. We've got three things that are absolutely symptomatic of a totally diseased system. And they were sold to us as normal, necessary, everyday, nothing to think about, move on. We got other things to look at. Inflation, federal income taxation, and national debt. Each one of these is absolutely tied to our current system. It's tied to the system because the one thing that is not being discussed, that I don't find being discussed, is that money creation, money extinguishment. Yes, money is created, it comes into existence. Money is extinguished, it goes out of existence. But people are not talking about how this is happening. This happens at the bank level, not the Federal Reserve level, not the US government level, the bank level. And when I'm saying money, I'm being very specific. I'm talking about what constitutes M1 money. M stands for money, 1 stands for the number 1 supply. There's 4 items that are in M1. Cash and coin in circulation, all the electronic digits in checking accounts, not savings or any other kind of accounts, and traveler's checks issued by non-banks. The traveler's checks issued by non-banks is such a small de minimis amount, excuse me, we won't even consider it. Cash, coin in circulation, electronic digits in checking accounts. All M1 comes into existence as electronic digits. I call it M1 ED. Forget that ED, you know. The cash and coin in circulation, that's in your pocket, in my pocket. Any cash or coin held by a bank in its vault or teller drawers is not part of M1. It's part of their reserves in physical form. Same with the US government. The Fed itself has no money, no M1 money, M2 nothing, and it has no reserves in its own name. And somebody might say, well, wait a minute, no way, Alan, you're a wackadoodle. How can the Fed operate without having any money or any reserves in its own name? It's simple. The Fed simply creates reserves. Fingertips on a keyboard, hit enter. In fact, if you look at what's called the Financial Accounting Manual, it's the accounting manual of the Federal Reserve System. In it, among other things, it has a very extensive chart of accounts. Chart of accounts is a listing of all the accounts that would be in an entity's general ledger. The first account listed, and it goes assets, liabilities, equity, income, expenses. The first asset is gold certificates, which is essentially a receivable, which means no Fed bank, even in a chart of accounts, has an account for a bank account, savings, cash on hand, petty cash, because it has none. The Fed creates reserves to get anything it wants. And Michael, your good friend Ben Bernanke told me that in 2012.
Hold on. Why are you putting Ben on me? His name is Ben. His name is Ben. I'm not Ben. I'm Michael.
Oh, I had to say that. Come on. But yeah, in the 4th of 4 lectures at the George Washington University School of Business, Bernanke told the students during this presentation, which was about what the Fed did post-2008, how the Fed acquired $2 trillion worth of treasuries post-2008. He didn't say this is a journal entry, but what he really described was a journal entry, which in this case, it would be debit the asset, treasuries, and credit the bank's reserve account that they got the treasuries from. 1 debit, 1 credit, hit enter, we're done. $2 trillion worth of real life interest-bearing treasuries with nothing but a keyboard entry. Before we get to the solutions, and there's many possible ones, but for me, before we get to the solutions, we really need to understand what the problems are, how they got created, and how do we fix them. And for me, the number one thing to do, and this comes down to people demanding it, because this is not going to happen in Washington without us demanding it. We have to take the power to create money away from banks. We still need banks. I'm not anti-bank people, anti-bank buildings. No, we still need them, absolutely. I just want to return the power to create and the benefit that comes from it to the united benefit of the people. We do that, we get rid of those 3 problems.
Now, Alan, watch this. Hey, Kerry, I want you to respond on this as well, because I want to leave you out. It seems like you're itching to go ahead and throw your comment in there, but no. So Alan, you've painted a great picture. The problem is the fictitious nature of our monetary system, debt, credit, and just the fraudulent nature of the banking model and fractional reserve lending. And so today, as of right now, the movement that you're mentioning about the people wanting it, 95.9% of the population is asleep. So once people get done watching this video, we need to give them one thing they can do, because the repo market is real. They're expanding their balance sheet now, debits, credits, the same way you described, I'd imagine, and it's going to grow and it's going to get worse because every government is going to fall in that same category. So what is one thing, because they're going to create reserves, we're gonna eventually go earn our paychecks or whatever comes our way in the form of income. How can we also utilize this awareness to our advantage now?
Go, Kerry.
Well, I'll let Kerry go first because
I got a whole bunch of responses in my head, but I want to hear from Kerry.
Sounds good. Kerry, you're on the hot seat.
Yeah, well, you got to look at the system. It took.
Whoa, Kerry, we can't hear you.
Can't hear me? Oh, shit.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was too far away from the mic. I keep forgetting. So it took us 100+ years to get where we are now. And, these people are just not going to give up the power voluntarily. They're either going to have to blow the system up and lose it that way, or it's going to have to be taken from them. To think that you can somehow educate the population to the vagaries of monetary policy, I think is a little overambitious. It's esoteric. At best, 5 to 10% of the population might understand it. At worst, it might just be us sitting here and a few other people who write blogs. Nobody understands that the Fed creates money and they've granted banks the right to create money as well. There was a time before the last financial crisis that American Express was a charge card. When you made a charge there, you were supposed to pay it back within a month, so it didn't add to the money supply at all. And now American Express is a credit card because they're a commercial bank. The odds of leading a popular rebellion against our enslaving monetary system is like the odds of getting people to understand what's going on with the impeachment in Washington now. You can't get the public in on this until it really matters to them. Maybe in 2008 and 2009, when they saw, losing jobs by the millions, foreclosures and all that. But now we've approached a point of normalcy. So I just don't think that realistically there's any way to fight this system until it collapses, which it's going to at some point, but maybe it'll be another 20 years. So I don't know that taking direct action against the monetary authorities is really going to accomplish anything for anyone other than lead to a lot of frustration. I've studied this problem from a lot of standpoints, a lot of different angles, and I just don't see, look, things would be going the way we want if when Jerome Powell appeared in public, there were people with pitchforks and they wanted to hang this guy from the nearest tree. But, if you ask 95% of the population, who is Jerome Powell, they're clueless. And that's the indication that they've kind of got the population where they want them.
Good point. So with that being the case, the chance of waking up the masses in this next couple of months or a decade especially, apart from them feeling it because it's going to be forced upon them in the form of some type of financial whatever, most people still don't know what to do. My responsibility, or what I'm taking upon myself, is to find ways to create avenues to get people to become aware. And so people need ideas. So the Federal Reserve, central bank is going to be creating reserves to buy tangible assets. We're going to be working or earning or receiving something. My thought would be you do the same. So I talked about gold in Germany just recently, Poland repatriating, all these nations repatriating massively before 2020. What do they have in store for 2020 and beyond? Obviously, they're getting physical. My thought would be use whatever paper or crumbs or digits or paper or whatever you have, get physical. And if you're interested in the possible speculative gains, then you can go holler at Mr. Bitcoin Ben to all those projects he's referring to and probably prosper a little bit and get you some cash gold.
I totally agree with you. Hey, I'm not saying sit back and do nothing.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just saying, you can't save people who don't know they need to be saved.
They're drowning, don't know they're drowning.
Yeah. I mean, you throw them a life preserver and they look at you funny and then they go down, then they go down for the count. So And I don't want you to think that I'm like negative or, you know, I just see that this is a process, an ongoing process, and we're just not there yet. Believe me, I want us to be there. God only knows I want us to be there. But, you know, I've seen this. I've been watching this my whole life. I've been a libertarian Austrian economist probably longer than anybody else on this call since. So 43 years, 43 years. So that's 1977.
Good
And
Lord, that's as long as I've been alive.
yeah, well,
I wasn't here yet, so.
Hey.
I'm not giving out my age.
and you know what? I watched in the late 70s, when was it? Late in the 80s, I watched gold go to $850 an ounce. Silver hit 49 and change. And then magically they rebooted the system. How they did it is another story. But what I'm saying is, this is only the latest iteration of what we're seeing. So telling people to be prepared and making it as part of their prepping plan is probably the best you can do because, people are uncertain. Even though the economy appears to be doing pretty well now, they don't really understand it and they're really unsure of it. So I think there is where you communicate to people like I'm in Florida here. Once you have to evacuate your house because of a hurricane, once that happens, all of a sudden you realize, like Mike Tyson said, a plan is great till you get hit in the head. And then you realize that your plans are useless. How much silver can you throw in the trunk of your car? How many guns can you take? How much survival food? How many rounds of ammo? And God only knows where you're going to wind up. So it's a really difficult situation here to communicate. So it's got to be part of like an overall kind of prepping plan. Because you can make people understand, hey, what would you do if there was a hurricane or an earthquake or whatever? Exactly. And then have them prepare for all right, the ATMs are all going to be down. Where does that leave you? Right? Then you can make it more real to them than just a generalized anxiety over, hey, the monetary system is going to collapse one day. But when's that going to be? Well, I don't know, but it's got to happen. It's mathematically assured. You can't get anyone's attention doing that. So you have to use other means to communicate the same premise, but in more real terms. Because a monetary collapse, and you could go back and say, well, in Weimar Germany, here's what happened. And then, how long ago was that? Well, that was only 90 years ago, and that was Germany. The U.S. dollar, same dollar printed in 1786, is still accepted as a dollar today. They're just not going to buy it. So, really, you have to get this through in some other way.
All right, now watch this. Everybody share their last thoughts on this, or their own personal idea of a solution. If you guys want to, then let's move on to another topic. So what I realize we need is a timer so that everybody can throw in their minutes. And so we're at 20 minutes now. We're on our first topic still. So anybody want to just get it, throw out some solutions real quick, and then we'll move on to another topic.
Yeah,
I'll go.
Go ahead, Steph.
Well, I got it all there before I lose it. It's tough. It's just so much information, and that's just another issue. Mm-hmm. There's so much information, and to sort it out, to have an action plan is a challenge to begin with. So let me try to tie some of these points together in my head that we all just talked about. But to Carrie's point, I was selling silver, my personal silver, in 1979 and 80. My grandmother used to hand out silver dollars to people because she was born during the Depression era. So the holiday was like, go to grandmom's because we got a big fat silver dollar. We found silver in her basement buried behind brick walls. So that tells you the generation I I mean, I'm not her generation, but that's the environment that I was raised in. So fast forward to today, and we've been through 9/11. I could name a lot of them: 1987, long-term capital management, 9/11, the Great Financial Crisis, and then crypto comes into the picture. Now, I'm a libertarian. That's why I'm in New Hampshire. And they're very big on the cryptos up here. Not everyone. I'm not generalizing, but it's big. And I had to sit back and take a look at that and really assess it on how I felt about it. Because what I realized was you're working against yourself. You're actually going right into the system that they're trying to put you into, which is to remove you from your capital, remove you from your real money, whether that would be your house, your silver, your gold, whatever that may be. And if you're trying to retain your capital, why would you want it somewhere out in the cloud? Now, back to Carrie's point with if you bring it down to earth, let's say there's a hurricane, what would you do? The ATMs aren't working. Forget the EMF or the electronic hydrogen bomb or a sun flare. Let's just bring it home. Hurricane hits. House is almost gone. You flood it out. There are absolutely no utilities. What do you have in the back of your car if it's running? You got a backpack. You're going to need money. Gold and silver is going to hold out really well. Cash will still be accepted because the whole United States hadn't collapsed at that point. So cash is still going to work. What is your plan? What are you going to do with that? As far as what you can do today while things are still functioning as they are, sound money. And that would be, if I could reference everyone out, your guys are probably aware of it here, but the Sound Money Defense League. And I bring that up because as far as constitutional money is concerned, the states are in the process of passing legislations. I think there's about a dozen states where gold and silver are no longer taxed because it's money. And back to the original point that we spoke about in the opening of this discussion was the bastardization of terminology. You know, we're still tossing around the word money to talk about currency. And let's go to the M1 supply. You left out the MZM supply. Let's look at the velocity of money. It's through the floor. We're back at the velocity of money of what it was, I think, back in the Great Depression. And if we're not sure what that is, that's how fast dollars are exchanging between two parties in a transaction. It's like, it's still falling. There's a major problem going on. And lastly, I don't know if you noticed, but Macy's was a ghost town. Not because it was on Drudge, but because I saw the pictures. Macy's was a ghost town on 34th Street. There was nobody out there shopping. When I lived in New York, Thanksgiving weekend, 34th Street at the cross streets of 5th, 6th, and 7th Avenue were packed. You could hardly walk. There was nobody out there. It wasn't raining. It wasn't snowing. There was nothing wrong with the weather. It was a ghost town. The hairs are standing up on the back of my neck, guys. Go ahead.
Yeah. Once again, and I know that cryptocurrencies are new to a lot of people, but and although I agree with you guys that the old system has huge problems, I'm living in the new one. Right? I shop with Litecoin. I shop using cryptocurrencies. I pay rent. I actually pay my mortgage using cryptocurrencies. And the idea of, the terminology that we're talking about money and currencies, and we have to make sure that we accurately describe what currency and money is. Money's a shared illusion. That's what it is. It's whatever people value is money. That's what the reality is. So If I walk up to a kid and I go, okay, I'll give you this 1 ounce of gold, or I'll give you $100 bill, that dumbass is going to take the $100 bill.
Betcha.
And it just goes to show you that I'm and the trapped system, or they're leading us into the new system that's all going to run us into the hands of hell is ridiculous, because it's a transition into the new representation of money or value. And just like what you just said, oh, I look at Macy's and it was empty. Yeah, because Macy's is replaced with Amazon. That's what's going on. So if you if you really want to make a lot of money, I wouldn't invest in Macy's.
Well, I just want to clarify. Online sales only account for 10% of total retail sales. Online shopping is not the problem. It's part of it, but it's not the problem.
All right, then what is their problem?
Corporate debt.
So the reason people aren't shopping at Macy's is because of corporate debt?
No, the brick and mortar is falling apart because of corporate debt. People aren't shopping because they're broke and they've maxed out their credit cards and they're not willing to shop like they did even last year.
I would have to disagree with that, because the shopping, more people are shopping this Christmas and putting out more money than ever.
We haven't even gotten past
before.
Good Friday yet, so we can't say that.
Well,
We're not even through the season yet. We don't know. But as far as what we're seeing right now, there's nobody out there. 34th Street was empty.
That's because they're all at home shopping on Black Friday.
Oh no, only 10%.
On Amazon.
10%, only 10%.
It was also cold there too.
Right, only 10% of sales are online sales. That doesn't account for 34th Street being empty. What's going on?
Oh.
Well, I'll tell you what I think's going on.
Go ahead, Alan. Give it to us.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to do a little plug for all of us. What's really neat about this program is that we're bringing lots of different points of view.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just everybody patting each other on the back and agreeing. And this is where serious discussions happen, and this is where great information gets transmitted, because it's not always absolutely 100% clear. Okay, when your house is on fire, God forbid, of course, you know what the problem is. We've got a little bit more complex, and I appreciate everybody sharing. I'm going to kind of take a little bit from everything I've heard. One is that one of the biggest problems I see in this entire country regarding everything that's going on is lack of participation by people. We have been allowed to be educated, indoctrinated to, I'm just going to take care of my life, I'm going to do this, and somehow, some way, it's going to go right. Okay, this has never happened, and it will never happen. This is just get on the conveyor belt to tyranny, if that's the way you're going to be. We have to get involved. And I agree, trying to get people overall to wake up in this system is not going to be easy. But if we do get, Carrie, 10%, that's quite possibly enough to carry the day. Regarding the lack of shopping, the thing is that what is, I think, generally accepted, whether it's at a national level, state level, local level, personal level, debt's at an all-time high. And if people are out there acquiring goods through debt, well, yeah, money's not moving because you're just borrowing. So yeah, the velocity of money could be down. I don't feel that the people that are in my life that are there, they're that comfortable with the economy. It's not roaring to them. It's not great. It's not wonderful. But even if it was, when you take out the other side of this, and this is the bookkeeper in me, the debt. The federal debt at 23+ trillion dollars is absolutely, totally under this system unpayable. And if the interest rate spiked up at all, it's going to be unserviceable. Then you throw on that state debt, state pension debt, people, companies. We have more debt in the system than we have money to pay it off. Therefore, it doesn't matter how great business is doing at any point in time. We're actually not doing well. We're just digging a bigger and bigger hole. And this comes back to the basics of the monetary system. What I'm trying to do is not for everybody, and I get it. But I can't see walking away from this just because I may not get a lot of traction initially. Because what I see is we have to understand the problem at its core level, which is not out there. Put together all the great statistics that everybody can bring to this, and then realize this system is not working for us. Yes, you can have gold. Yes, you can have silver. I like the idea. I really do. Food, water. Kerry said guns, and then I was waiting. Guys, are you going to mention ammo? And he finally did. Because guns without ammo are just really heavy sticks.
Throwing a gun.
Yeah, they're taking away your ability to buy ammo in California, I think.
So
Welcome.
all the more reason to get the hell out of that place.
Well, I've got a friend in Tennessee who's said the exact same thing and said, Alan, what are you doing behind enemy lines? And I said, well, someone's got to be here.
Watch this. But it looks like there's a deliberate push to drive people out of California for some particular reason. I mean, not only are the problems there, but then all the policies and stuff that's taking place now is forcing people to leave as they plan.
What I feel is that if you are not warm and fuzzy and have this one certain set of attitudes, well, yeah, you're going to want to leave because it's so unpleasant. With people who are happy about the way things are progressing, such as yes, I did use the progressive word, LA, San Francisco, is that, this is all going to be wonderful. Okay, have they looked out on the streets of LA? Have they looked out on have they looked at the streets of San Francisco?
That's what my furry beanie baby has to say.
It's disgusting. But for
Calcutta, like a black hole of Calcutta.
Yeah, and I would not chalk that up to a grand plan more than I would just chalk it up to liberal ignorance.
Oh, it's more than that. The liberals love homeless. They want more. They go out of their way to create them. It's a deliberate plan because then all these NGOs hop in and steal billions of dollars from the government. This is all deliberate here. This is not an accident or just fate. It's it's them, like Bill de Blasio in New York City. They love the homeless, and they want to keep creating more and more because that cements their power.
I do agree with you that the leadership is planning this, but the average liberal, the average person who calls themselves a progressive but doesn't really know what it means, those are what I like to call really stupid people.
Useful idiots.
Well, I just call them stupid.
Oh, they're useful idiots. They make the whole thing possible.
No, they're not even useful. It's you have the leadership of the progressive movement, and then you have all the dumbasses, and you're not going to be able to convince a dumb person that they're dumb. Just let them actually be dumb and let them live in San Francisco, walk around the human droppings all over the place, and smile as they live their little stupid liberal lives.
But that's what makes them useful. They don't fight back, and the more needy they are, and right now we're just kind of playing with terms, but the more needy they are, the more desperate they are, the more those in power say, "Oh, I have to take more from you because we have all these needy people," which means taxation's got to go up, regulation's got to go up. And every time, God forbid, there's a firearm incident in this country, well, we're going to blame the firearm. We're going to blame the tool, not the person wielding it. And
the implement.
My thought is that, okay, as soon as I find the perfect set of golf clubs, I'm going to become a scratch player. See, that's the problem. I just haven't found the right golf clubs yet.
Well, you know, there's an interesting dynamic going on with this, what we're talking about, because let's just take, for example, the map from Trump's election. Remember how it looked, how red it was? But the little blue spots were the major metropolitan areas, correct? Okay,
correct.
So they're the progressives, liberals, whatever you want to call them, they're all migrating towards the mega cities. I've noticed that recently what was headlines on occasion has now disappeared, but another one just popped up yesterday. I think it was yesterday. But remember when Northwest Colorado and Northeast Colorado was looking to secede from Colorado, create their own state? Remember the movement in California that Northern California wanted to do that? Remember the movement of Western Maryland wanted to remove itself from Eastern Maryland? And let's not forget upstate New York wanted to secede from the rest of New York. Now, it was just in the headlines just a few days ago, if I'm not mistaken. Staten Island wants to secede from New York City. So there is still this underlying secession movement where we've got to, you know, it's like the polarity of the elections and the polarity of people and our opinions and our points of view. It's like, okay, let's just split the state. You live on your side, I'll live on my side. But that's not going to solve the problem.
It's not going to solve the problem. That's like people who want to, who have chosen to leave America because they're going to retire into some convenience. Well, guess what? America is our country. It's big, it's powerful, it's got tremendous resources, it's got great people, but America cannot take care of herself. Only her people can. And if you walk away from this, then you're walking away from the problem. And you're walking away from the dream that was given us and the rights and the freedom and the liberty. This is, this is a job that's never done. What was it? Thomas Jefferson with the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Well, I guess the question to be asked and the question to be answered is, have you paid your price today? And we're not educated to pay our price. We're not even educated to figure out how to pay it. Cryptos or gold or silver, I don't care.
Right, and watch this. And because of that, because of the lack of education, the lack of knowledge that has not been taught or preached from the very foundations of our family structure or lack thereof nowadays, there's no way of getting this message out to everybody in an orderly fashion or timely manner. So it's going to be during the collapse and the rebuild phase of whatever their transition is into. Hopefully we'll have avenues to be able to share the same message. Because my thought is that after 2020, everything that's opposing to the mainstream narrative will be shut down, diluted, watered down, considered hate speech, crime acts, or whatever. So it's going to become less easier to share truth with people. And so it's going to be basically a one-by-one situation where people, through their life's experiences, through their own example, be that shining light amongst those living in darkness. So that right, because I'm starting another channel pretty soon, and it has to do with the spiritual elements of what's going on. And I'm excited because I'm going to try to give people an explanation and some type of nugget about individual purpose. And the problem is most people are alive just simply because they wake up. They don't know why. Everything in existence, everything we look at was created by and for a unique purpose. And until we all contribute equally our purpose for each other, we're lost. And education, the way it's taught, keeps us all separated. Every man for themselves, So I will begin more of my place in this world by encouraging people to start with the why are they here and what can they contribute. It's all about how can you serve people. Service will make a world of difference for everybody, and that's what we're lacking, in my opinion. So, but watch this. Let's get to another topic.
Wait a minute. Can I say one thing?
Go ahead.
I got to. You used the P word, and that's a word that's in my vocabulary now. Purpose. One of the things that is missing, and it's not like I'm looking to point a finger or blame or anything. It's just this is it. What's missing in our education, in our culture, is I want you to grow up. I want you to get an education. I want you to have a nice life. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's good. But where, especially in the beginning of our education, is the concept to your point, Michael. Why are you here? What is your purpose? You may have more than one purpose, but what is your first purpose? And how do you know if you found it? For me, when you wake up and you could do something 24/7, you found your purpose. Yeah. And if that purpose includes helping your community, your environment, your country, your family, whatever, it's about the giving. It's not about the taking. It's
not about you. Is what it boils down to. Like none of it. Like this is not about rethinking the dollar. This whole is not about me. I'm trying to get this to people. And so, to your purpose, to your statement there on purpose, to me, simply the foundation of my new channel is Proverbs 18:16, which says, "A man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men." So that right there lets me know that you are carrying something of value, and it's your responsibility to find it, refine it, and disperse it. And it itself will do all the work for you once you discover it and give it. Don't worry about the money. Just give it, and God will do the rest. So that's the spiritual elements of what I'm focusing on. And I'm excited, man, because most people, they shun the spiritual nature of everything, but yet everybody, when things hit the fan, everybody go crying to God, "Lord, please help me." But where was he at during the good times of your life? Like now is the time you might want to tap into that. So, I gotta go deep, man. But anyway, repo markets. Let's talk about the repo markets activity, the bail-in, the bail-ins, and everything that's currently underway. And why is all the central banks and nations running to gold? And the backdoor side of cryptos and whatnot, and the coins, the tokenization stuff. Let's touch on that some.
All right, I guess I'll go first. The reason that they're doing repo is because they have to. The repo that they're doing is the ships going under, and they're trying to get enough water out in order to keep the ship afloat. And they're going to need bigger and bigger pumps. And the bigger and bigger pumps are going to be the higher and higher volumes of currency or dollars or whatever you want to call it into the system to prop up the existing monetary system long enough, or really, I think, as a transition into, and it's kind of what Steph, right? And you got to change your name because it takes me too long to damn say it.
Well, try. What if you put the trader in front of it? Does it help?
No. Any S or any T, I'm just going to call you beautiful. How's that?
You got to go with the B instead.
Brownie points.
Yeah,
how about Catwoman?
There you go.
Give her a picture.
We've never really had a collapse in human history. Now, we've had drops, because that's a relative term. You know, if you're like, all right, 1929 was a collapse. Yeah, but the world didn't end. You know, or if we have a crash, yeah, 1987 was a crash, but the world didn't end. We kept going. You know, and so I hear crash and all these words thrown around, but it's And I also hear like Prepper, and do you have enough silver? Do you have enough gold? You know, do you have enough cryptos? You know, it's really, we don't know what's going to happen. So in order to prepare, you basically have to know what's going to happen. Because if you're prepared for a flood and your house burns down, well, that raft you bought wasn't worth a crap, right? So it's literally, we don't know what's going to happen. So just wake up every day. You be honest. You try and move your friends and your community forward. You try and help people, and you can prepare as much as you want, but we don't know what's going to happen. But we're not going to have a crash where one absolute minute is going to bring us all running into the middle of our roads, hair on fire, and just screaming, "Oh my God, where's my silver?" You know?
Well, Ben, watch this. Sorry to cut you off. And so to disagree with you as far as we don't know, I'm more than confident. I'm 100% mathematically certain that because of all the things that Alan mentioned about the debt, the taxation, all that, and the current monetary paradigm, I call it a reboot. It's going to be a monetary reboot of something occurring, and then the reissuance of something different, which is going to be digital based. So I'm saying I'm 100% certain that the current monetary structure will not be the same in a decade from now, for sure. Therefore, everything based in our national currencies, including the Federal Reserve note, will be reset or restructured or rebooted, and there will be massive wealth lost for the person who is not aware, who thinks their financial world is only includes digital and digits and paper, will be sustainable in this next decade. So I feel 100% confident in my statement of what I do know about preparedness in regards to that.
I agree with you 100%, and I think we're in the middle of the crash, because we're crashing from the old way of transferring value, and we're transitioning into the new way of transferring value. And when you transfer value, you look for, during that transition, what is holding value during the transition. And that is, everyone here is right in their own way. You have gold, you have silver. I have this right here. Where did it go? This right here has a little chip of, that's gold. Right. All right. So this is worth about $350.
But it has value. But it has value intrinsically in it. Yeah.
Right. Plus, this is also on the blockchain. This note is also represented on the blockchain. It's literally the trend there, and that's what I'm getting involved with. Is all of the companies, all of the projects that are leading the transition is what I'm getting involved with. And I'm worried about the old economic system, but I think we're going to muddle through into the new monetary system, which is going to be mostly digital.
Hey, Mike, I got a spiritual twist to this for you.
Please do. Throw it at me.
Yay! Yeah, we're all going to get the mark if you don't have it already.
And what is that?
That's where this is heading. And I believe the mark is an RFID chip or some type of eye scanner, whatever's at the end of this blockchain push that we're heading into will incorporate something that will have to be on your body or something present in order for you to walk into a store or out of a store or whatever. So I'm more than confident about that as well.
Which there's stores that you can go shop in now, and you don't have to use money. It's the war on cash, yada yada. Yeah. That's a big picture. That's a whole nother topic, right? But the spiritual little twist here is: would anyone here disagree that in that big, and this has to do with repos, believe it or not, there's an order to things. You know, things eventually work them things out. Whether it works out the way that you want it to or not, it tends to move in a certain direction, you know, and you're just trying to keep up with it, or you're part of it, or you're trying to get out ahead of it. In any event, one of those things that investors use, as well as traders, is something called Fibonacci. And Mr. Fibonacci discovered the Fibonacci lines. You know, you can snap them on a chart and you've got your resistance and your support levels on a chart. It's the bigger picture. There's a certain order to things that you just cannot get around no matter what's going on. So on to repo. Repo has been going on since 1913 because ever since they printed their first fake dollar, which was still backed by gold back then, by a percentage anyway, and they were loaning that out, and then you owed interest on that debt, and the bank was multiplying that dollar by 9 or 10, depending on how you look at it. That money was already created beyond what they started with. So, right. So now we're at that point, you know, over 100 years later, and we have this global financial system that is off a sound money base, and everyone's floating with digital dollars, digital cryptos. Who cares? It's all the same. It's removing you from the grocery store or where your stuff is coming from, which I had a brief discussion with Ben earlier today with the term tokenization. Now, tokenization is actually when you blockchain and then you IPO and you financialize that particular blockchain. You give it a name, you got some special system, whatever, it's all the same. They did this during the financial crisis. It's just not looked at that way. What they did is, it wasn't the mortgages that were the problem. Yes, they gave out too many mortgages because the government allowed it to happen, and then the regulators looked the other way as the banks were making commissions on the profits, but they took those mortgages and bundled them together in a derivative. Then they made derivatives on top of those derivatives. And then they made more derivatives on top of those second levels of derivatives. And that's what imploded the system. That's the same thing as tokenization. They just didn't have a blockchain to, wait, let me finish, Ben. They just didn't have a blockchain to track it. But what they used to track it, they even blew it there too, because they created the MERS system, MERS, and that was the electronic system to track mortgages. But what got lost in all that was that the banks couldn't find the original paperwork. And then when some folks were getting a foreclosure notice, the banks could not prove with the original paperwork, which addresses standards that have to be met. They didn't have to pay the mortgages back. So the whole digitization thing really creates major issues, which removes us from a spiritual connection to, like, everything's connected.
I hate to, I'm going to have to interrupt just for a minute because I've got, I thank you, Steph, because I got to leave to another program. Everybody, thank you for having me on. I look forward to next week. And
Alan, I'll also be getting a hold of you about having you on my show.
I'd love to do that. Last thing, and I'd keep this in mind. This is my patriotic side. The prize that is to be taken from us is our Constitution, our liberty, our rights, our freedom. And the methodology, or the tool in part, if not the major part, is the control, the manipulation, and of our monetary system. When you blow the monetary system of a country, everybody's looking to the central government for help. And that's when you give up liberty, freedom, and rights. I look forward to next week, everybody. Be and stay safe and well. Thank you, Michael.
Alan, be good, my friend. See you later. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Later, Alan. Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, a couple more minutes here. So, Ben, finish your thoughts that you had, and then we'll probably touch down, wrap it up, however you guys want to do it.
Also, the repo, yeah, too much debt was created. Now, when they started raising interest rates and they were giving out all that free money, there's a dollar shortage. There's a liquidity issue. There's probably other things going on too, besides what was caused by the increase in debt, which is primarily corporate debt. But it's a mess, and there's no way to end this. Going back to what started in 1913, you create a buck, you charge interest, and then you multiply it by 10, and you keep doing it for 100 years. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, what I meant with what I said on Twitter was they're transitioning these derivatives into a representation that can actually be shopped with. Now, you're going to have to let your mind kind of like go around this for a minute, right? Ethereum is basically, it has value because of what is called the Ethereum protocol level. And I've actually done this. I have actually bought coffee with Ethereum. I've actually shopped with Ethereum, which is a tokenized representation of value of a product or of something else that is viewed to have value. That's what they're doing with the derivatives. And basically, the ICE, the Intercontinental Exchange, that's what they're going to do. They're actually going to tokenize all of these derivatives, and then slowly, because ICE owns the cryptocurrency exchange that's actually called the Pact Project, which is actually BAKKT. They are gonna create enough liquidity in cryptocurrency trading platform that they have, where the derivatives can be sold and the value can be transferred into the new cryptocurrency world. It's this new outlet they have for inflation and for derivatives that they're going to flow out of the old system into the new.
Well, they already did it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not referring to what you're talking about. I hear what you're saying, but they're not going to tokenize derivatives. But
absolutely they will.
They've created the futures contracts at the CME, and that's when the crash started in Bitcoin.
Yeah, that won't last long.
Well, they can't. Okay, I'm never going to say that they can't, but what they're doing is creating an internal proprietary system in order to track the derivatives, because the derivatives actually are not totally regulated, and most of it is still done old school pencil and paper. They're simply creating an internal system to track what they have that only they will have access to. It's actually not about doing an IPO with their derivatives, because that's just layering another derivative on top of another derivative, which was my point about talking about the great financial crisis and how they did that with mortgages. It's just a different way of looking at it. But if you go and you crypto derivatives, any concept that you ever had about a financial Armageddon, forget about it, because you ain't seen nothing yet. That'll totally implode the system quicker than you can say cheese.
So watch this. Quick question: How would you place a value on a derivative of a bet? When you package a derivative up into a token and you try to put it out there as an asset to spend? What would that look like? What would it would have its own name, or how would they categorize it? How would that be an asset for you and I to actually have a hold of?
I'm curious as to what Carrie thinks about this.
Yeah, well, I'm up on cryptos, but as far as when it comes to tokenizing derivatives, I have no idea. I don't trust cryptos because, I think they're easily defeated on many levels. So I'm just not a believer in them in their current incarnation. Not to say that they're not the future, just to say what we have now is not. It's just not going to do it.
It's not the final product, huh? It's not the final product, is what you're saying. We're just getting
it's the beginning. It's evolving because, they've got so many, even though the blockchain's immutable, the internet is not. and nodes on the internet are not immutable. And all of the transactions have to take place or get acknowledged, validated through nodes. So as long as there's not billions of nodes and there's only a few thousand of them, then it's going to be subject to blocking and a lot of other bad stuff. So my feeling is if it doesn't, it looks like it's going on another downward spike just from a technical point. It hasn't hit 19,000 again, which means it's in a bear market. And people want to believe that it's going back up again to 20,000, but till it goes up there, it's not doing anything.
That's exactly like gold and silver, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Watch this. In comparison to what it's denominated in Federal Reserve note terms, and say in Argentina, for example, Bitcoin is well above its all-time high before because the currency is crap. So I'm more than confident that as a result of the monetary policy, anything that has properties of money will go up in nominal terms because what it's denominated in will go down. So it's going to hit 20 plus, but it's going to be an environment we probably don't want to be in, but it'd be a transfer anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would love to do some charting on the side with you, Ben, to show you something, just to clarify things for you, and you may see things a little bit differently. But what I'm hearing is a repeat of what is given out there, which is 100% false.
Which is what?
While comparing gold and silver chart to what happened to the Bitcoin chart, or the dynamic of the fall of Bitcoin is the same thing that went on with gold and silver. Not even close. There's absolutely no comparison. And the only way that you know that is if you were there when it happened and you were part of it and you watched it and you tracked it, and now you can look back on the chart and you can discuss what happened from month to month and what were the reasons of why things happened and what the actual dynamics were. Plus the underlying asset, completely different ball game.
How's that?
Talking paper, you're talking the real thing, but everyone's basing their value of it on a chart that is through the spot market, not through the futures market. It's the spot market that matters.
Your silver and gold only has value because a large group of people value it.
That's not true.
All right, leaving out people, what is gold value?
Let's leave out crypto and gold.
No.
Let's leave out the intermediary of exchange out of the equation.
All right, leave out people.
You're going to be making an exchange. If you're living on this planet and you're going to be exchanging some type of service,
leave out people,
product with someone somewhere along the line, and how you do that gets kind of complicated when you look back in history, because someone's going to argue about the size of their apple pie or how many strawberries are in their basket. So the intermediary that they put in between that is money, and money has a
leave out people. What's the value of gold if you leave out people?
Well, you're seeing that happening in the market right now, and that's the automated trading platforms, high frequency trading, algorithms, and artificial intelligence. If this is the future, count me out, because it's a disaster.
What I'm saying is there's a group of people that value gold. There's a group of people that value silver. There's a group of people that value Litecoin. There's a group of people that value Bitcoin. The only reason anything has value is because we apply value to it. So are more people valuing shopping on the internet every year? Is that growing, or is that actually declining? You're looking at a chart and you're like, well, back in the 80s, gold ran up to, that's a generation that had more people value gold. the less people that value gold, the less gold will be valued.
Actually, more people value it now than then, but that's kind of irrelevant to the point.
Who?
Well, first of all, the chances of me having a small gold coin, I could go anywhere on this planet. I mean, anywhere. And just about everybody, more than 9 out of 10, I'm not going to put an actual number on it, but I'll just say 9 out of 10 to give a number on it, knows what gold and silver is.
That's true.
It's constant. It's been around for 5,000 years. People understand it. Crypto, people don't understand yet. And you need to be connected to the grid in order to utilize it. And we're nowhere near that level of, we're nowhere near that level on this
I can do
planet.
this, but I gotta go.
Yeah.
All right. I'll see you all next week.
All right,
Thanks.
Bye,
Kerry.
Kerry.
Appreciate you, my
Bye.
friend. Have a good week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Later, Karen. Now, I made a comment to someone in the past. I said, you know when crypto's going to work? When we need it in space. When we become a space-faring nation, then it's going to work. But while my feet are on this earth, it just doesn't make any sense at this point. It's a problem. But it's a great speculative vehicle if you know how to do it. God bless you.
If you're not ready for it, that's okay. It will be here when you're ready.
I'll be gone before I'm ready.
Well, watch
Maybe
this.
so.
Well, watch this. I love the fact that this is getting juicy, but we're going back and forth over something that is already in play. We're being deliberately steered in that direction.
That's
And
right.
Steph, like what I believe is regardless of whether or not we're for it, we're going to be transitioning to it regardless. So,
See, hang on a second.
yeah.
I don't think we're fully being steered toward it
Mhm.
more than we're naturally moving to it because it's more efficient.
But watch this. It's more efficient overall because we're in a technological age and everything seems and human nature is lazy as hell to where we prefer to have smartphones, smart this. I was going to mention earlier, I was looking through the sales paper and everything that's smart houses, smart cars, smart this, smart. That's a deliberate attempt to steer us to a solely digital age, along with, lack of privacy, surveillance state, yada, yada, yada. But people are speeding up their own demise in the employment realm because as automation, machine learning picks up, we're encouraging that by buying all these gadgets as opposed to saying, no, I don't want to have my car start for me or my car call my wife for me. I can do it my damn self. Like, because we're willingly accepting this, not blindly, of course, we're speeding up the need for digital currencies and things of that nature as a part of this whole push to move into the future, which is inevitable. I've accepted it, but I'm not in a rush, as I mentioned before. I'm not in a rush to be digitized solely. I still enjoy having something physical.
I was
No,
at the
I'm not
gas
either.
station the other day and I filled up my tank on a 25-cent silver quarter.
There you
Just
go.
saying, didn't need a cash register. The guy understood exactly what it was. There was no debate of who understood it or who didn't.
Yeah.
It was understood.
Yeah.
The power went out
Yeah.
because of a storm.
Then how'd you pump your gas?
I didn't.
It was
I'm
one of the wider
I'm
ones.
giving you a hype. There's actually a station here local that is manual pump if necessary.
Really?
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
old school there.
Well, hey, everybody, we have an hour at 11, and it's great. And so we're going to pick up next week. So what I'm going to do for next week, for those that are still tuning in, because like I said, if some viewers might, I don't know, but everybody stuck around. Anyway, I'm going to have a timer. So I'm going to try to figure out a way to have a timer. So what is an appropriate time you think you guys can share your thoughts, share your comment on the problem, throw your solution
The
in?
3-minute ring.
3-minute ring. Okay, fair enough. So I'm going to figure out a way to get a timer on here, or I'm going to have a little manual timer. When you hear a ding, your time is up. We move on to the next one. Anyway, but everybody, it's been great for those two. I appreciate everybody taking time with us. Been great hanging out. Give it a thumbs up. Share. No, don't share this because this is for you, private viewership. So, but definitely I'm glad you guys enjoying this. Hopefully enjoying it. Ben, Trader, Steph, let us know where you at, where they can find you at, even if they don't know, and we go off.
Go ahead,
Young
Ben.
lady. Oh, okay. Hey, everybody. Bitcoin Ben on YouTube and also on Twitter.
Trader Steph on Twitter, and my website's tradersteph.wordpress.com.
All right. I'm Mike, rethinkingthedollar.com and everywhere else. So other than that, be blessed, be safe. Peace. See you guys later.